In today's video, I'm going to share with you this quick and easy recipe for these no canning required bread and butter refrigerated pickles. All you need is some cucumbers, some onions, some bell peppers, some vinegar, some sugar, a few spices, and in about half an hour, you can have these delicious refrigerator bread and butter pickles. I'll show you that video next. Stay tuned. Now, these are truly end of the garden cucumber pickles because when I was at the farmer's market, there was a farmer there and he had cucumbers. And I asked him about them and he said, this is it. After this, he was like, I won't have any more cucumbers. Now, he typically have a late crop of things that come in, but he said this is the last of his cucumbers. So I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, I don't have time to can cucumber pickles right now. But the cucumbers, they look so cute and so fresh. So I said, you know what? I can do some refrigerator cucumber pickles. And that way I don't have to worry about processing them. I can just put them into a couple of jars, put them in the fridge, and in a couple of weeks they're ready. We can eat them up, and when they're done, they're done. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to be making bread and butter pickles. And these are a little bit sweet compared to dill pickles, which usually have very little or no sugar in them whatsoever. And since I'm making bread and butter pickles, I'm going to add a couple extra things to my pickles. So I'm going to add some onions. I've got some red and yellow onion. The farmer also had bell peppers, so I've got a green and a red bell pepper. And bread and butter pickles typically have celery seeds. I don't have celery seeds, so I'm just going to chop up a small amount of a stalk of celery and add that into there as well. I'm not a massive fan of celery in pickles, so I'm not going to use a lot, just enough so that it give it a little flavor, but not like overwhelming, because in my opinion, celery in recipes like this, celery can get a little overwhelming. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to chop up all my veggies, and I'm going to put them in a bowl and get them ready to pack them into my canning jars. And this is going to be easy breezy because we don't have to crank out the canner today. We're just going to have a couple of jars of pickles. And so this is not going to take a very long time. Okay, so I'm just going to remove the two ends from cucumbers. You always want to do that whenever you're processing cucumbers. Always remove the blossom ends of the cucumbers. And then you can slice them thinly, you can slice them a little thicker. For these, I'm going to slice them neither thick nor thin. So just cut them up, but you can slice them very thin. You do want to be aware that the thicker you slice them, since we're not going to process these, it could take them a little longer to soften than if you thinly slice them. That's why for most refrigerated pickles, they are sliced thinly. But I'm going to slice these neither thick. See, this is what I mean when I say thin. Most people cut them very, very thin. I like mine with a little bit more crunch to them, so I'm going to cut them about that thick. So go ahead and slice them up. And I'm just going to toss everything together in a big bowl so then I can then pack it into my jars and pour over my pickling liquid. Get my cucumbers chopped up. Most people, when they think of canning or pickling or any type of preserving, it's usually they're thinking of something, that's long drawn out and take a ton of time, and you need bushels of cucumbers and bushels of onions. You don't. You can do refrigerator canning. It's still preserving. You're still putting up something. And these will last for at least a month, if not 2 months in the refrigerator. And I mean, that's a decent amount of time, to put up something. It doesn't always have to be long-term storage canning. And also too, when you're doing this kind of canning, it's a good way to ease yourself into, if you're new to canning, it's a good way to ease yourself into the whole process of canning, because you kind of get you get a feel of how it's like before you dive right over into, you know, headspace and processing time and pressure canning and all those kind of things. This is a good way to kind of get yourself familiarized with the steps, because, you know, whether you will process these, which you can totally process these, put them in the canner and, you know, boil, you know, and go through the processing. If you want to, you can do that. And I have other videos that show you how to make pickles, whether it's relish or green bean pickles or whatever. I'll leave a link in the iCards for that. But it's nice to have those things that, you know, you can do without going to the great lengths of processing things. So even for experienced canners, it's nice to have those kind of recipes too, believe me. Okay, so I've got all my cucumbers chopped. I'm going to grab a bowl, and like I say, I'm going to toss everything in one bowl. I'm going to go ahead and add all of this into the bowl. And you see, that was almost 2 pounds of cucumbers, but there's a lot of cucumbers out of those 2 pounds. I would have got a little more if I had sliced them very thinly. You can use a mandolin too, instead of a knife and cutting board. Now I'm just going to peel and thinly slice my onions and my bell peppers and add them to my cucumbers. Okay, I've survived the onion chopping, and I've got all of my veggies chopped up into my bowl. I've got all of my cucumbers chopped, my bell peppers, my onions, and my celery. Now it's just time to mix up the pickling liquid. And by the pickling liquid heat, I can pack my veggies into my jars. Now for the pickling liquid, I'm going to use a stainless steel bowl. Always use stainless steel or porcelain whenever you're working with vinegar. So I'm going to use 1 cup of apple cider, of white wine vinegar, or just white vinegar. Yeah, not white wine vinegar. Whatever vinegar you choose to use, just make sure that it is a 5% acidity. So pour that in. Okay. And I'm also going to use a half a cup of apple cider vinegar. You can use all white vinegar. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't hurt anything. You can use all. Here we are. And I just like these little measuring cups that my aunties gave me. They are, they're porcelain. So they're perfect to use whenever I'm pickling or anything like that, you know, instead of the other kind. And I'm also going to add in a tablespoon of raw organic apple cider vinegar. Give it a good shake. This is purely optional. It's just, since we're not going to be cooking this mixture, we're not going to be processing it, it's a good idea to add in some. It has the mother in it, which has all of these really good probiotic properties. So add that in. And I also need 1/3 cup of water. Now, why add water? You can use all apple cider vinegar, but it can make your pickles shrivel. And which is kind of strange. If you've ever made pickles and they shriveled, it's just because you use a little more vinegar than the vegetables like. So that's a good tip. Just add a little bit of water. Don't add equal parts water or vinegar, but add some water. Okay, and I'm also going to add in some mustard seeds, because this is bread and butter pickles and they always have mustard seeds. So I'm going to add in, for this, I'm going to add in a tablespoon of mustard seeds. You can add less, you can add none. That's entirely up to you. This is all optional steps. And I'm also going to add in a half a teaspoon of dill seeds. Well, maybe a half a teaspoon is a little bit much. Let's just go with a quarter of a teaspoon. Because these are bread and butter and they typically don't have dill in them, but I wanted a little bit of dill. I'm also going to add in a half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes because I like a little bit of spice. And bread and butter pickles almost always have turmeric. Now, this is optional as well. You can skip it, you can add it. I'm not a massive fan of very yellow pickles, so I'm literally just going to add a pinch. That's barely noticeable, but I'm not a massive fan of yellow pickles, so just a pinch is good for me. And here I have some white granulated sugar. And I'm going to start off with about a quarter of a cup of sugar. Now, the reason why I said start off, I can make this as sweet or as tart as I want. You can add an entire cup of sugar in there too if you wanted to. That's up to you. It just depends on your preference, how sweet you want them to be. So I'm going to start off with a quarter of a cup. And if I want to add a little bit more sugar, I can taste my pickling liquid, add more, or I can leave it as it is. Now I'm going to heat this on the stove and get this nice and hot. Bring it to a boil and then reduce it and just let it hang out and stay hot. Because you do want it to be hot when you pour the mixture over your veggies. That kind of gives it like a quick pickling. So I'm going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. Okay, so my pickling liquid is keeping nice and hot on the stove, and I'm just going to go ahead and toss all my veggies together. Make sure everybody's nicely tossed and mixed. Okay, so now I've got my jar funnel on top of my jar, and I'm just going to go ahead and start loading my veggies into a comeback bowl and start packing it in. In no random fashion, just toss them in there. Shake. There we are. Okay, it looks like I may need another jar. I had aimed for 2 jars, but it looks like I may need another jar. It's all those onions. When we were kids, we used to eat cucumbers, just sliced cucumbers in vinegar. We didn't bother to let it marinate like you're supposed to, let it sit. No, we didn't do that. We just sliced up cucumbers and poured vinegar over them and started eating. I remember my brother, it was one of his favorite snacks, cucumbers and vinegar. As a matter of fact, I think he still eats it today. If I'm not mistaken, he still eats it. Okay. So I've got enough for another jar, so I'm just going to grab another jar and keep packing my veggies. Okay, I found it in the jar. Now, this is actually a jar that I got with some pickles from the grocery store, and I saved it. It's got a nice pickle safe lid. What I mean by a pickle safe is this is safe for pickles, put it that way. It's not like a open raw metal lid, which most jars are lid or coated. That's what the word I'm looking for, coated. So I'm just going to put it into good use for these pickles. And if you know me, you know I love repurposing, reusing things. So this is the perfect time to repurpose this jar. Anytime you buy something that is glass and it comes in a jar, I like to save it. There's no reason to throw it away. You know, glass jars, you can reuse them multiple times. Okay, so I got everything packed. My pickling liquid is nice and hot on the stove, so I'm going to go ahead and pour my pickling liquid over my pickles. All right, here is my boiling pickling liquid, and I do want to say I actually ended up, because you can taste your pickling liquid as you go, actually did end up using 3/4 of a cup of sugar instead of a quarter of a cup of sugar. And I forgot to mention I added 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So I'm going to go ahead and pour my pickling liquid into, and I'm trying to figure out, am I brave? No, I'm not brave. I use a ladle. I'm not brave. I use a ladle. Okay, go ahead and ladle that in. That looks good. And the good thing about this is there is no set ratio for this. You can make as much or as little pickling liquid as you like. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to need some more pickling liquid since I have an extra jar. So that's fine. I'll just mix up some more pickling liquid. That's the good thing about, you know, the refrigerator style. You can do it however you like in this regard. Okay, that's good. That looks so pretty. Now let me fill up the next one. And I think I can put my Brave Girl hat on and just pour this one in. Okay. All right, over she goes. And here is the last of it. Okay, we would have needed more anyway. All right, so I'll just whip up another batch of pickling liquid and fill up all of my jars. Okay, beautiful. Okay, got all the jars nicely filled. All right, and I'm just gonna take my spoon and level that out. Pack that in there. Because they all float up a little bit. So it just needs the time to kind of absorb the pickling liquid and kind of sinks down a little. All right. Wipe off the rim of the jars. Make sure it's nice and clean. And because I'm not going to process these, I'm actually going to use these reusable lids. You can get these from, I bought them from Walmart. You can get them from Amazon. These are for the wide mouth, but you can get the regular mouth as well. And I'm just going to close it up. You do want to do this while they're hot, so you kind of lock the heat in. And my reused jar, I'm going to add its lid onto it. And that is all. That is all. We have 3 beautiful jars of homemade bread and butter pickles that you can put in the refrigerator, let them cure for a while in the refrigerator, and in about a week, maybe 2 weeks, they are ready to eat. Now, you don't have to wait 2 weeks. I prefer to wait 2 weeks just to give the flavors time. You can even wait a month. And no doubt, both of these, all 3 of these won't be consumed in a month. So in about a month, I'll still have delicious pickles in my refrigerator and no canning required. I hope you've enjoyed today's quick little video on these easy and no canning required refrigerator bread and butter pickles. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And I hope this gives you a little, inspiration on how you can still preserve without having to can or freeze dry, all of those things. Those are good things. And I love canning. But sometimes you don't always have time. You don't always feel like pulling out your canner and going through processing your jars. So this is a way that you can still put up something, have a little something put away that you can go back, and you don't need to eat it right away. You can go and get it out and eat it and enjoy it and preserve a little bit of the summer bounty. Also, it's good too, a good foray into canning if you're new and you kind of want to know what can I start. Refrigerator pickles, jams, jellies, it's a good start. Freezing is also a good start. So say you want to put up squash, which I always recommend that you freeze squash and never really can squash because that takes considerable amount of time. I've done it. I pressure can squash, but it's a little easier to freeze it. So those are some things that you can still preserve and put up and stock your fridge or your freezer without having to worry about canning. So I hope, good Lord willing, to see you guys in the next video. In the meantime, take care, y'all. Bye.